Welcome back, tennis enthusiasts. At this very moment, nestled within the Coachella Valley, under skies so vibrantly blue they appear handcrafted, the most prestigious tennis tournament outside of the Grand Slams is set to spark to life. The BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells, California, is officially underway. For those who have never experienced it firsthand, try to visualize this. A desert panorama so breathtakingly cinematic it feels almost surreal. The San Jacinto Mountains stand like silent guardians behind courts that glisten brilliantly under the winter sun. The scent of jasmine lingers in the air as the crowd pulses with a sense of immense anticipation, all while Larry Ellison, the billionaire visionary behind Oracle, has reimagined what was once a modest desert stop. He has meticulously transformed the venue into an architectural and technological sanctuary for the sport. Stadium 1 stands massive and authoritative, while Stadium 2 offers a more intimate, electric energy, paired with fine wine and world-class dining. The atmosphere is so thick with excitement that you find yourself leaning forward in your seat long before the opening serve is even delivered. Every single square inch of this campus radiates prestige, proving that this is far more than just a tennis tournament. It is a spiritual journey and an absolute privilege to witness. Every professional on the tour hungers for a title here, and every fan fantasizes about walking through these legendary gates. It is widely considered the fifth Grand Slam in every aspect except for its official name, and this year's lineup is nothing short of explosive. Novak Djokovic is still on his quest for perfection, stubbornly refusing to surrender to the passage of time, while Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner are two once-in-a-generation powerhouses, forging a rivalry that will likely define the next decade. On the women's side, we see the reigning champion Mira Andreeva, the raw, destructive power of Aryna Sabalenka, and the strategic, chess-like precision of Iga Swiatek. Then there is the local favorite, Coco Gauff, whose face adorns the massive billboards along Interstate 10. These are the icons that sponsors compete for, and the stars who sell out stadiums before the first warm-up ball is even tossed. But hold on, because this is where our story deviates entirely from the expected narrative. We are not focusing on any of those established titans today, despite the headline that currently has the entire tennis community in a tailspin. The story that has completely reframed the context of this year's Sunshine Double belongs to a single individual. It centers on a 20-year-old hailing from Quezon City in the Philippines. Alexandra Eala is the undeniable main attraction of the BNP Paribas Open. Let that sink in. She is not a former champion or a top-seeded veteran, yet this 20-year-old from Southeast Asia has stepped into one of the most star-studded events on earth and captured every bit of the spotlight. She has effectively commandeered the attention of the sport, and the tennis world find it impossible to look away. To truly grasp the significance of this milestone, you have to understand the grueling path she took to reach this point. Just a few days ago, Eala ascended to a career-high world ranking of 31 in the Women's Tennis Association, a massive leap of 16 spots that sent tremors through the professional circuit. This was no slow, steady climb. It was a full-scale detonation, fueled by a stunning performance at the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships. That event stands as one of the most demanding WTA 1000 tournaments on the entire professional calendar. Eala sliced through a draw filled with battle-hardened veterans with the composure and grace of a player twice her age. She advanced through round after round, remaining precise, powerful, and completely unshakable. Eventually, she found herself facing the world number 4, Coco Gauff, in the quarterfinals. Though her run concluded there, she secured 215 ranking points and nearly $100,000 in prize money. In doing so, Alexandra Eala achieved something no Filipino tennis player, male or female, had ever accomplished. She reached the highest ranking in her country's history. This world number 31 ranking is far more than just a digit on a digital leaderboard. It serves as a golden key, swinging open doors that were bolted shut against her just a few short months ago. She has completely bypassed the grueling qualifying rounds, securing a direct entry into the Indian Wells main draw. There is no early round attrition for her to navigate. Instead, she enjoys a first-round bye, granting her the luxury to breathe the desert air and acclimate to the conditions. While other players exhaust their energy and nerves just to earn a spot, Eala has not simply crashed this elite gathering. She has been escorted to a reserved seat at the head table. However, rankings alone do not generate this specific brand of high-voltage electricity. There are 30 players ranked higher than her in this tournament, so we must ask, why is she the primary attraction? The answer is layered in 3 extraordinary ways, beginning with the sheer, exhilarating evolution of her game over the last 12 months. If you have not watched Alexandra Eala recently, you have quite literally missed one of the most thrilling transformations in the history of women's tennis. In 2025, she exploded onto the global stage with a run to the Miami Open semifinals that left spectators and analysts in absolute awe. Along that path, she systematically dismantled 3 former Grand Slam champions, Elena Rybakina, Madison Keys, and the formidable Iga Swiatek in consecutive matches. This was not a stroke of luck or a single good week. It was a cold, composed declaration that a new powerhouse had arrived. Her heavy, left-handed forehand, drenched in topspin and high velocity, became a weapon that few could neutralize. Paired with a flat, driving two-handed backhand, she proved she could unravel even the most elite defensive strategies in the professional game. When she captured her first Women's Tennis Association 125 title in Guadalajara, the world took notice. She reinforced that momentum with a landmark victory over Clara Towson at the United States Open. Her trajectory from junior world number 2 and United States Open girls champion to a legitimate threat on the main tour has been as rapid as it is undeniable. Yet, what truly sets her apart is not her technical skill, her academy training, or even her impressive ranking. It is the raw mettle she displayed during her darkest moment at the Abu Dhabi Open just a few weeks ago. Picture the intensity of the scene. She was facing the veteran Belarusian Alexandra Eala. After the first 2 sets were split, the deciding third set began to spiral into a total collapse for the young star. 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, and finally 0-4. She was 4 games down in a final set against a seasoned professional. In the unforgiving world of pro tennis, a deficit like that is rarely just a score. It is usually a death sentence. A heavy, expectant silence fell over the stadium as the crowd realized they were watching the inevitable conclusion. Most players her age would have lowered their heads and accepted the loss as a mature learning experience. But Eala did something entirely different. She stood her ground, looked up, and began to fight as if the scoreboard still read 0-0. Point by grueling, agonizing point, she began to claw her way back into the contest. Sensing the finish line, her opponent began to tighten up, hitting a double fault here and a long forehand there. At 3-4, Eala broke back, and by 5-4, she was serving for the match and forcing a decisive tiebreak. After 2 hours and 51 minutes of pure psychological combat, the momentum had completely inverted, and Eala emerged victorious. As the final point went her way, Eala turned toward her corner and addressed her Filipino supporters in Tagalog, using a word that paid tribute to the intense battle fought within herself. That victory was far more than just a successful tennis match. It was a profound revelation of her core character. It is the kind of grit that forces even neutral spectators to choose a side and keeps them awake past midnight just to refresh the live scores. Her absolute refusal to accept a narrative written by anyone else is exactly what makes Alexandra Eala impossible to ignore. This is a rare quality we usually reserve for the legends of the game, like Novak Djokovic erasing 2-set deficits at Grand Slams or Serena Williams conjuring points out of thin air in a final. Finding that level of resilience at any age is extraordinary, but at 20 years old, it borders on the otherworldly. This explains why, at Indian Wells, every single time Eala's name flashes on the schedule board or the public address system calls her to the court, the crowd surges. They flock to her because they know a match is never truly over as long as she is still standing on that court. Now, peel back the white lines of the court and look at the broader landscape. because what is unfolding in California right now is not merely a sports story. It is a cultural event of genuine magnitude, occurring in a region that hosts one of the densest and most passionate Filipino-American communities on the planet. For generations, the athletic heart of that community beat for the game of basketball and the thunderous, heavy-handed power of Manny Pacquiao. Tennis, with its history of country clubs and European geography, previously existed only on the fringes of their interest. However, Alexandra Eala has driven tennis straight into the heart of the Filipino sporting consciousness. She achieved this with a force that no corporate campaign, marketing budget, or public relations strategy could ever hope to manufacture. She did it through the raw power of her forehand and the sheer tenacity of her spirit. She did it with that miraculous comeback in Abu Dhabi that defied all logical expectations. By climbing to world number 31 and securing her place in the main draw of one of the world's most prestigious tournaments, she has become a symbol of excellence. What the crowds at Indian Wells are witnessing this week is a full-scale mobilization of the Filipino diaspora. 12 million Filipinos are spread across the globe, with heavy concentrations in the high-income markets of North America and the Middle East, and they are now converging on the desert. They are streaming down Interstate 10 in the same way an older generation once flooded into Las Vegas to watch Manny Pacquiao make his iconic ring walk. They are arriving with flags held high, bringing a level of noise and energy that is rarely seen in this setting. Their presence is transforming the polite, whispered atmosphere of Indian Wells country club culture into something far louder, wilder, and more vibrantly alive. The practice courts are being completely overwhelmed by fans, and ticket requests are spiking to unprecedented levels. Meanwhile, Southeast Asian streaming numbers are obliterating all previous viewership records for the sport. While the BNP Paribas Open has always been a magnificent spectacle, this year, with Eala in the draw, it pulses with a distinct, additional frequency. It carries the raw, electric charge of an entire nation watching one of its own stand tall among the giants of the game. From a business perspective, this is not just an exciting development for the Women's Tennis Association, it is fundamentally transformational. The professional tour has always recognized that its commercial potential rises in direct proportion to the size and passion of the audiences it can engage. Li Na famously cracked open the massive market in China, changing the sport's global footprint forever. Naomi Osaka then fused tennis with global youth culture in Japan, turning the sport into a platform for fashion and activism that transcended the court entirely. Alexandra Eala represents the next tectonic shift for the sport of tennis. Consider the sheer scale. Over 115 million people in the Philippines alone, boasting some of the highest social media engagement rates on the planet. This is an audience that is highly educated, financially capable, and emotionally invested in her every move. Global Women's Tennis Association partners, ranging from Morgan Stanley to the Public Investment Fund, can clearly see the massive commercial potential here. Eala is bilingual, incredibly articulate, and naturally magnetic on camera, making her an icon before she even captures a major trophy. Her commercial trajectory is not just rising, it is practically vertical. We are witnessing the legendary Pacquiao effect, but this time it is happening in a pair of high-performance tennis shoes. Back when Manny Pacquiao entered the ring, entire cities across the Philippines would fall into a hushed, reverent standstill. Crime rates reportedly plummeted and the streets turned into ghost towns, as over 100 million people held their collective breath as one. While tennis usually demands a bit more patience from its fans, Eala's meteoric rise has completely demolished those traditional cultural barriers. She is currently the lead story on every front page, trending across the globe, and carrying the immense weight of a nation's pride. Every single time she steps onto the court, she provides further proof that her shoulders are more than strong enough to carry that historical burden. Strategically speaking, she could not have chosen a more perfect moment to arrive at Indian Wells than right now. The specific conditions in the California desert are uniquely tailored to her specialized style of play. The air here is thin and fast, which allows the ball to zip through the hitting zone with incredible ease. However, the courts themselves are slow and gritty, offering a high, aggressive bounce that plays right into her hands. This surface rewards heavy topspin while simultaneously punishing opponents who prefer to hit flat, low-trajectory balls. This environment perfectly mirrors the years of clay court discipline she mastered at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. Having trained in some of the slowest and most difficult conditions on the tour, this surface feels as though it were designed specifically for her. Her cross-court forehand, loaded with that signature left-handed topspin, kicks up violently into the backhands of her right-handed opponents. The extended rallies required by these courts play directly into her ability to construct points with a patient, suffocating intensity. This is the exact muscle memory that her coach, Joan Bosch, has spent years meticulously developing within her. It is essential to understand that the Nadal Academy was never meant to be a simple finishing school. It was a laboratory of suffering. They do not teach a comfortable or easy style of tennis there. They teach players how to truly embrace the grind. It is about having the mental fortitude to win the 16th, 17th, and even the 18th shot of a grueling rally. The ultimate goal is to apply such consistent, crushing pressure that the opponent's decision-making eventually fractures under the weight. Eala absorbed those lessons completely and then proceeded to add her own lethal, modern weapons to that gritty foundation. She developed a flattened backhand down the line that now allows her to end points aggressively rather than just extending them. Her serve has been completely re-engineered, transforming it from a potential liability into a genuine precision instrument. This is especially true of her wide slice to the ad court, which tears open angles and sets up her dominant forehand on the very next ball. This is a brand of deliberate, high-intelligence tennis that masks a genuine, predatory menace behind a calm and composed exterior. To truly understand her essence, we have to revisit Abu Dhabi one more time, as it serves as the Rosetta Stone for her entire career. Trailing 4-0 in the deciding set, the narrative of the match seemed to be etched in stone. At that point, the internal dialogue of most players shifts abruptly from a winning strategy to a desperate mode of survival. They start asking themselves how to simply hold, serve, or how to make the final score look somewhat respectable. The mind begins to retreat, and the tactical approach starts to contract under the pressure. That very contraction is typically what grants the leading opponent the opening they need to finish the job without a struggle. But even at 0-4, Eala's mind refused to retreat into a defensive shell. Instead, her focus actually accelerated as her opponent stepped up to serve for what should have been an easy victory. Eala began returning serves with a level of aggression that seemed statistically impossible given the dire scoreline. Her opponent buckled, hitting a double fault followed by a forehand winner that sailed wide, allowing Eala to secure the break. Then came another break of serve, followed by a tie-break that Eala controlled with absolute authority from the very first point. This was not a stroke of good fortune. It was a sustained display of psychological dominance executed at the exact second it was least expected. That ability is, without question, the rarest and most valuable skill in the world of professional tennis. It is the specific trait that separates the players who merely reach the second week of a major from the icons who define the sport. The path forward at Indian Wells will require every facet of Eala's game: the tireless grinder, the fearless aggressor, and the mental fortress. A potential rematch with Coco Gauff under the bright lights of Stadium 1 promises to be an absolute spectacle of modern tennis. Gauff's elite movement and defensive coverage will push Eala's patience to the limit, forcing her to decide when to attack the net and when to stay back. Facing powerhouses like Aryna Sabalenka or Elena Rybakina presents an entirely different set of tactical challenges. Those matches are defined by brute force from the baseline, where the opponent attempts to make strategy irrelevant through sheer, blistering pace. Eala will need to rely on her slice, her ability to vary the rhythm, and the discipline to keep the ball away from the waist-high sweet spot those players love. However, we must face the cold, mathematical reality of the 2026 Women's Tennis Association Tour. The competitive gap between the world number 1 and the world number 31 has never been narrower than it is today. On any surface, on any court, and on any given afternoon, If Eala's ball striking remains clean and her focus is locked in, she is a legitimate threat to every single name in this draw.